Hey, you're back in garage, Vic Ferrari. The other day we went out with the buggy there and did some off-roading, and while we were out we had a little competition with us. Well, they weren't with us, but they were there. And I'll put the GPS Google Map photos up, and I'll show you the trail we were on, and I'll show you the line that we took will be in red. So check that out in a few. And so what we were doing was we were climbing this hill, and it had some pretty gnarly rocks on it and stuff. And you can see those in the photo also. I zoomed in on it. But we had a couple of side-by-sides. I don't know if they're Can-Ams or Razors or what they were, but one was a two-seater, and it was actually pretty small. Had a guy and his kid in it. And the other one was a four-seater, and it had a man with two of his sons in it, you know. So we were climbing this hill, and they tried climbing it, and neither one of them made it. And we were sitting at the bottom watching it, and then we tried climbing it, and I hit it a little bit fast, was getting on the gas, and I couldn't get traction. So I ended up backing back down it, and then I put it in first gear and left it in first gear and just went up it literally as slow as I could go. The buggy has a very low first gear, and so I probably went up it at about 4 miles an hour, maybe 5, and it just crawled right up it, crawled over the rocks. It didn't spin a tire, and I just kind of wanted to give you an idea why, because these guys were saying, how the heck did you just do that in a two-wheel drive? And neither one of us could get our side-by-sides up it. And so I thought I'd kind of walk you through why. So I did some calculations and everything based on when I had my engine out and my transmission out, my gas tank and all that. I weighed each and every item, including the removable frame piece here, my skid plate. I wanted to know what everything weighed. So I weighed the CV axles, I weighed my A-arms and my shocks. So I know the exact weight of every piece, my brake rotor, my wheels, tires, the spring plates, everything on here. I know the exact weights on it. And all the weight is center lined about an inch, right about here is the center balance point of this vehicle. So all total, I gotta actually look on the board here, all total, the rear is 738 pounds and 412 pounds of weight on the front. And so that's 738 pounds from here back. And you can see that that's all sitting pretty much dead center on the tire. So when you're off-roading these, yeah, they're two-wheel drive, but you get your Jeeps, you get your Toyota trucks. I'll even pick on my own vehicle because I don't want people upset. You get your Razors, and what you have to understand is their center lines are way closer to the middle. Trucks and Jeeps and stuff, their center lines are usually even more forward than that because of the weight of the motor and everything. These are fully weighted literally on the back wheels. And so when you're off-roading, the back end is going to go through all the dips, and normally you'd have to have articulation, but these don't need it because the front is so light, it will literally just hang a wheel 3-4 feet in the air, and all the weight will transfer from the whole vehicle. It will transfer once you start climbing something and it lifts that front wheel up. It will dump the weight back here because you're now angling up and weight will automatically transfer. So all the weight of the vehicle pretty much ends up on these back tires, and these back tires will never lose traction because the front wheel literally comes off and hangs. Where your side-by-sides, your Jeeps and all that, they split the weight and they'll twist, and you'll end up with one front wheel off and one back wheel off. And if you do that, you need articulation in your axles and your suspension, and most vehicles don't have that kind of articulation unless you get into rock crawler stuff. So this has got basically articulation throughout the whole frame to keep the rear wheels 100% of the time weighted onto the ground. So as I went up that trail, I rock crawled over the rocks and my front end just stayed in the air, and all my weight kept these tires from ever spinning. And then the other trick that I do is I've got all my weight on the wheels, and I've got the wheels down at 5 psi. It's hard to see, but I write it right there, 5 psi. Because this thing weighs only 1,100 and a few pounds, I can run 5 psi in these tires. It squishes, and I literally get a contact point of 10 inches from underneath there to underneath here. So I get 10 inches by another, let's see, exactly 10 inches. So I have a 10 by 10, that's 100 square inches of contact point that I get on that tire on a flat surface. But if you look up here, you'll see that here's the total weight of my car, 1124. And as you look, you'll say, well, there's 738 pounds on the back end, engine, tranny, and all the gas, and the 5 gallons of water I carry and all that stuff. But when you start angling a vehicle, if you set it straight up and down, all the weight of the vehicle is now sitting on the tire. So the more angle you get, the more weight I have starting to plant on my tires. Now, there's some other factors of the weight, you know, distributing this way and then curving and all that. Well, I'm not going to try to figure all that out. That's way beyond what I care to do. But you can just figure that I probably, when I get into a 30-40% incline, I probably have 1,000 pounds, maybe 950 on my back tires. As I go down the trail, my tire's like this, and it doesn't hurt it at all. But when I get on a rock, it now pushes up over the rock and squishes over it, and my contact point gets closer to 15 or even maybe 18 inches of tire by 10 inches wide grabbing at one time. So that, my daughter's drawn all over my board, sorry, but that is why these dune buggies will get a wheel off 4 feet off the ground, that wheel will stay on the ground, and those two are planted. And they will just literally crawl right over rocks without spinning a tire. You can imagine what it would take for that tire to start spinning when it has 1,000 pounds on it, or divided. So when it has 500 pounds on it, and it's got 180 square inches of contact surface, it's not going to spin. It's just going to crawl. Now, when you get your razors and stuff that are kind of equally weighted, you're getting maybe 200 pounds on that tire, and that tire, and then this one's got 6 or 4, I don't know what the razors weigh, but let's say 400 or 500 here, 400 or 500 there, 200 there, 200 there, and those two tires start spinning, you're done. So if you're curious why these will climb so well, that's why. But to make them climb that good, you have to have a very low first gear. If you don't you're gonna have to hit the stuff fast, and that's what I tried first. And when I was getting on her, it was just throwing all that horsepower torque right into the tire and causing it to spin. And I didn't even get up to the good rock crawling rocks because I couldn't get the traction. So the next time, like I say, I just put it in first gear, got going, and then I crawled the rest of the way. So if you're trying to rock crawl and everything, try to keep it slow. Try to pick your angle, your line. That has a lot to do with it, but weight transfer is pretty much totally where it's at. You've got to keep the weight planted on your drive tires. So I hope that helps. Hit the like and subscribe button, and hopefully I'll get 1.5 million views and I'll be rich from YouTube. And then I can just stay at home and lock myself in the house forever. Have a great day. Vic Ferrari. Stay safe.